Alright, welcome to my final portrait documentation presentation. My topic was creation and animation of a Vtuber model. Now, I have personal history with this topic for about, I would say like 3 to 4 years now, but most people would probably not understand what it even means. What is this? And I think one video can really show what this is. So, this video I just showed a VTuber, this little anime girl over here, at the Los Angeles Dodger game. Now, this is the thing I want to make, which is basically a virtual track 2D character. In this case, this character is called Gagura, which is a corporate VTuber. Now, what is a VTuber? And how did we get here? A VTuber, as I already stated, is a character that is 2D animated and sometimes even 3D. In this case, we're staying within the 2D realm though. So here you can see a VTuber that is not only the 2D character we can see here, but also a commercialized visual medium which multiple people can express themselves through. That means not only do you have the model here, but you also have the character which can be commercialized. This one is called MintMate. MintMate is an indie VTuber. Now there's a difference between indie and corporate. What we saw before, the shark girl, as people say, she was a corporate one. This is an indie VTuber. Now there's a big difference between these two that needs to be distinguished. If a person goes under the label of indie VTuber, that means they're just like a normal YouTuber. They use that to express themselves. They can make it themselves, there may be other people that made it for them. It depends always. In a corporate setting, often the people behind the character whose faces get tracked, right, and whose voices are used for these, do not have quite say in what they look like in the end, or exactly how they have to act when using the model. However, sometimes they do have a say, but it always depends on the corporate entity. Is it a big one? Is it a small one? If you're lucky, it might be a small one, and they actually give you some say. Alright, now to the next part. Live2D. This is the part where the actual making of the model comes into play. Live2D is basically, instead of a classic frame-by-frame animation, as you can see in a classic Zoetrope or cartoon animation these days, right? Cartoon Network comes to mind. Instead of that, it is basically the same surface that has been drawn once, moved by, so to say, inner structures and bones, kind of like this visualization here. You have the bones, you have the rigging, and it moves and it doesn't have to be redrawn. And that is basically Live2D. Now, in addition to this, I do want to mention that every part of this presentation has a few pages over here that refer back to the paper that has been delivered to you kindly. So now to go back to a bit of a history towards how this whole animation medium came to be. Now, this was firstly created around 2008, where the main reason for it was to keep the visual aspect of 2D animation while still having an easier time to produce those animations. Because everyone had to keep up with each other in a almost dog race to the end to produce well looking animations. So the first time it was used is over here in Tokyo School of Life, which is a visual novel, which I'll not get into. You can look it up yourself on your own time because this is a whole nother iceberg to get into. And we do not have the time. So, also here you can see VNMaker X Life2D, which basically was the announcement back then that in visual novels, the Life2D animation process can be used indeed. So let's continue on. Now we get to the concept. I wanted to make a model. I have done models before, so I thought to myself, what have I not done yet? And I thought space princess, space person. And I chose these images, which this one's AI, but it doesn't matter because it was just an inspiration. Doesn't mean I would go one-to-one. So in the end, I thought, okay, I want to make a chibi. This right here is a good example of a chibi body, which is inspired by another visual app called Gacha Life. And basically my concept was already set. Now I decided upon, boom, sketching, concepting. What do I see in this? What do I want in this? Not that useful. So I wanted something cool when the ribs made me glow, like that one AI piece I had inspiration. And I wanted first like a princess look, but how do I bring this together? How do I fuse that? What's the story? In my brain, I was like, oh, what if it's like an astronaut? And they got sucked into a wormhole, and in the end, they fused with the cosm. So I slowly went down the line and fused it more and more until I came to this sketch.
Let me just
Yes?
have a short question.
Sure.
So why you jumped from the left space part
Yeah?
back to the more or less darky, mystical style? Is there any idea from your side why you did it?
I thought this one wasn't really reflecting the inspiration images I had gathered. It was way too bright. It wasn't quite the subject matter, right? So I rethought the whole process, drew over the original sketch, and we ended with this sort of visual. Now, I wasn't quite happy with it yet. Something still felt off. So in the end, we ended with this version. I wanted the ribs, the inside to glow. I wanted the eyes to look like a space, like just a picture of like an astronaut taking a photo out over the Earth. I wanted just everything to feel like a space entity, something that isn't quite human anymore, right? It's slowly losing the shape of human or humanity. So, and next.
Because I question myself why you came up with the skeleton body. Is there a revelation to your kind of space variety world?
Well, to be honest, it just looked really cool.
Not the best question, not the best answer, but if you say, okay, my feeling was to make an unreal kind of beautiful ghost, something like that. It's red-wise.
I mean, she was crushed by the might of space by going through a wormhole, so that adds to it as well. At first, I wanted her to fuse with the spacesuit, become one with it. That's why it was also, if we go once back again, here connected to the ribs, right here, as you can see. So I thought the meltage also, first of all, it looked cool, like I said, but also it fused with the body and the skin, basically. That was my
it just came because if you're doing a lookbook or something like you're creating an idea for a special kind of personality of this kind of, what is it, Teufelchen in German, what would you say is it in?
Oh, no, I would say it more so the spirit.
Okay.
A ghost.
A ghost.
Right? Yeah. And the head is shaped like a meteor a bit. So I thought that would also fit the theme.
Okay.
And this is like a shooting star over here as well, with the trail. So the next, we can see the actual production of this thing. As you can see, every part had to be separated to multiple different layers. So it could be rigged up in the way I already described. The bones separated, the knees, the pads, the skirt parts, the front and the back of the chest rib cage, as well as the clothing, and the eyes are just so many layers. I think this is just a guesstimate because I didn't count exactly, but it would be around 100 to 150 layers definitely at this point. So here is a speed video of me doing those steps. I thought that would give some more insights into this, how I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe a different type of design would do it good, right? Then I was struggling a lot with the boots because I didn't feel like the boots were quite fitting with the design yet until I actually figured out how to do it. Now, here's the rigging process, as I already described. Everything is very akin to a 3D model, where it has meshes. I'm not sure who else has done a 3D model before, but it's a lot to do. And this process basically is simplifying a simple effect, a visual effect. So people can make these models easier and faster than that 3D model would have been in this case. And it still looks akin to a 3D model, right? It fakes it out, so to say, a tiny bit. And here you can see the pendulum. So the thing with the pendulum is it has physics, right? Hair, clothing, it all will be animated through the physics engine inside the software.
Can you explain what does rigging mean in this point?
Rigging is basically using the 2D assets we had in the previous panel. All these layers are like 150 around that. And using it in the software of Lifeto Cubism to basically connect them and make them usable as an actual moving puppet that basically tracks your face, right? Otherwise, it would just be a PDF file and nothing else. Couldn't do anything.
To become what?
To become a VTuber.
No, I mean to become a more or less natural movement. This is
yes. Well, it depends on how good the rigger is, of course.
Yeah.
Like later we will come to that still. There is a whole section on that. All right. Well, that's basically it of that. Oh, here we can see the legs being rigged separately. There's also a way to turn off and on layers, so you can basically have physics and rigging underneath other layers. So you don't get confused, for example, because that's a very common thing. That's why a lot of people do not, when they're VTubers, do not make their own stuff. They hire someone on, which also means that a model like that can go up to 3,000 euros per block.
I mean, I think this is much too low. I mean, if you produce it, this is not a cost wir nennen es natürliche Kosten. Also, it's much too low. I mean.
Oh yeah, I mean there is other people who ask for more, of course, but it's always a question of demand and how many people are currently out there making these models, right? So that's a big issue because not everyone walks in with 5,000 euros in their pocket, sadly.
I look at it before and it's a little bit sad that this kind of looks through the bones isn't really visible at the end because he has clothes on. And I really said, it would be nicer if you see it, how the bones move. And how they
would say that, but through the physics in the end, you can see more of it. Like the clothing will move around. That's the main point. Right? Otherwise, I wouldn't do all of that effort, of course. Program time. Now, how do I use that when it's done? Well, there's this neat program called VTube Studio, which you use to plug it basically in, kind of like how you would plug in mods for games or similar things. There is a little explanation on the software for it. Here, open folder data, and then right here, Lifeto models, and this is where everything is, basically. You drag in your folder of the finished model, and you're good to go. There is additions, of course. For example, turning on the camera. This is described in the pamphlet you have right there. But it's as easy as clicking here and camera turn on, right? And this is already pressed here, so I have no need to do so. All right. So it always cages me in.
Can you show it from head to toe as well? Like the full body, can we see?
Oh yeah,
as
of
well?
course. Of course, I can show. I can show the full body.
And in that moment, we're tracking only the head, not the full body. Is that right?
The full body cannot be tracked currently, sadly. There is developments in tracking, but that far it hasn't gone yet, sadly. You would need actual physical trackers for that to be possible, which does cost more money, sadly, than just a webcam.
Mm.
That's why most people, when they use a VTuber model, they don't have hand tracking or anything. They usually just sit in the corner and game, and you can't even see their hands. That is the main point of that. It always traps me on that MacBook. All right, let's go back. And now the history of Lifeto Cubism. A little bit of dry info, but that will be just very short because Tetsuya Nakayo is basically the inventor. Right out of university, he walked on and was like, how about I make this program so people have an easier time? And that's his life story. There's nothing else. He made this program and had his bed made, so to say. And here we can see his original character that was firstly animated in its full glory with this three-dimensional, non-three-dimensional program that he developed. Lifeto is different from Lifeto Cubism. Lifeto is, like I said, the basic language on how to use this, right? Well, you can basically make Lifeto stuff happen in After Effects. That's a possibility, or other programs. Cubism just made it so much easier. You don't need to open up After Effects, which will grill your PC, for example. You just open up the program of Lifeto Cubism, and it works on most PCs. No weight additionally on your PC to use it, which is practical. Now we are on the platforms. Now that's an easy one. Of course, we have YouTube, we have Twitch, we have Twitter. It's pretty simple. But also we have this other platform right here that most of you guys don't even know. This is VTuber. Now the question is, if you want to be a VTuber, right? You saw other people use it, you don't need to use your face, you don't need to make your makeup happen for a stream, for a video. Very easy to use, very simple. But where do you get it? Now you could just go to Twitter and ask, hey, does anyone know someone? But the best platform to go is VGen, because it is optimized just for VTubers. You can ask, hey, can I have a VTuber model that looks like a bird, that's like, I don't know, pink, and you'll find someone that can do it for you right here. So that's really what it is. It's like Etsy or eBay for VTubers, specifically. All right. Now, let's go to the connections between idol culture and VTubing, because that's where it started. there was someone called Kitsune Ai. Now, I don't have a visual of her, but little note, she was one of the first ones to popularize VTubing. She had a 3D model, that's why I thought it was not as relevant directly to this live 2D presentation. But basically, she was part of a corporation. They thought, why not make an artificial YouTuber, right? That's where the VTubing started, the term. So here you can see the similarities visually, because Kitsune AI was based on idol culture. She was a virtual idol, inspired by the likes of Hatsune Miku, which is not a real person, but a synthesizing program, which is a whole nother thing where basically someone's voice was used with their permission and like remodeled so new words can be said. It wasn't AI yet. It was a voice synthesizing program, and people made art and music out of this, and that was basically a virtual idol. But now we have an actual person behind it that streams, that interacts with people, that is actually commercially viable as an entity. And here we can see, basically this is Skagura, as we saw before, the corporate VTuber being used as basically an idol. Like, this is the idol. The idol. Ano-chan. Ano-chan is basically an idol from Japan who was starring in a McDonald's ad. And this is Gagura starring in a train ad for Japan. Same thing, but one is virtual, so you don't need to have a photo shoot. You don't need to have a lot of things, you just draw her where you need her, and there she is. Cheaper.
And it looks real. I mean, if you put it in a real situation, like up there, I mean, the background is.
Yeah.
What is it? 3D or is the?
This right here?
Yeah.
Well, it's a drawing.
It's a real photo.
This is a real photo,
This
but
real-
she is.
She is. Of course.
She's drawn into the picture, basically.
So, but you have to put her in that it looks natural.
Yeah, but that's an artist job. It's not like they have to hire out a person who might not have any time and then schedule things. They can just grab a VTuber, right? And be like, hey, can you do this? And they're like, well, you have the money for it? And they're like, yeah, and it happens. And they don't have to be in the studio for it, right? All you have really is the corporate identity of her that you have to consider, not really her as a person, right?
Now, I'm just talking about if you put her in the scene like it is, and it's a photo, I think it's no problem. But if you put it really without green screen in a film, there will be some kind of irritation. Is she really real, or is it good enough that it looks natural? That's my question.
Well, it's filters and stuff like that, and After Effects and what have you can use for it. Of course, you'll always be an anime girl. That's not the point, right? But people have been really welcoming to it. That's all I can say about that. People don't want a real person, they want to see the VTuber they've seen online, so to say, right? It's like Roger Rabbit, if you remember that movie, right? Of course it's a cartoon, no one will see it otherwise, but it still was a very hit movie, you know?
It's 20 years ago, for this time it was good, yeah? But today we assume totally different things. We want to see things in a real 3D world. Our what we see every day is really perfectly done. Yeah, so our imagination wants to have a real kind of setting. But on the other hand, like here, it's okay. I just want to mention how the real feeling she's in the scene is really feels cool, feels naturally good done.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's also a corporate agency. They know their tricks, they know how to do that thing, right? There is also 3D versions of her, of course, that are used in stuff like VR chat or similar programs, or even music performances on stage where there's a virtual screen basically showing her off as she dances and sings along, right? Like an idol, of course.
One more question.
Yes.
So do you find this connection to idol culture different in Japanese culture than the rest of the world?
Can you repeat
In
that?
the Japanese culture, you're talking about this idol culture. Is it different
Yes,
in Japan and in the rest of the world?
So it's been creeping into the American side of things. America has been popping up with their own corporate VTuber entities. There is just a very big difference where in Japan it's anime, in the Western culture it's cartoons. So you wouldn't see an anime girl being plastered on cereal boxes, but you would see Tony the Tiger, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
We will come to that point in a sec. Okay, we're now going over to linguistics. And with this new medium, a new culture of linguistic has been coming out. A lot of these things overlap with the idol culture. So I will mention those if they come up. The first one is Oshi and Kameoshi. Oshi basically means your favorite VTuber. If you're a fan, you're like, oh, I really like Donald Duck as the VTuber, right? Or Mickey Mouse, and they're not real, but they're voiced, right? You're like, oh yeah, these are my Oshis. But the Kameoshi is very similar to that, but it's your favorite. Like, you like cereal, but man, Cocoa Puffs are so much better than everything else, basically. This came also from idol culture. Then past life. Past life is something very specific, where you basically start being a VTuber with a new account. So people don't know who you are. The main part of VTubing is that people don't know what you look like. You're anonymous, basically, which helps you basically unfold all your creativity without getting judged from what you were beforehand, right? So in a lot of ways, your normal day-to-day life, maybe even your Instagram account that you had before becoming a VTuber, that is called your past life because you don't identify with that as much anymore, right? You're now this VTuber identity, this fake person almost. But it's also used when someone gets acquired by a different company, a talent, right? This person, for example, used to be a fox lady in Nijisanji, which is a big corporate. But then she was acquired by Bishoujo and became this identity. So this would be called a past life. And people are very split on it if they're allowed to talk about it, especially in circles where, this is now seen as the real person now currently. Mentioning this version might give you some uncomfortable stares. Let's just say that.
Just you have another 5 minutes, then you should come to an end.
Okay. Rigger, the person that brings the model. Mama, Papa, the people that are the riggers or the artists. Usually the Mama is the artist and Papa is the rigger. Seiso is being very safe for work, which means you are not doing anything lewd, you don't play bloody games or anything like that. Vtuber is being sexual on cam, basically, as a VTuber. Debuted graduation, distributing graduation is basically saying goodbye, I'm not a VTuber anymore. Flashy is basically a name for people that are not VTubers. So anyone that's a normal YouTuber, for example me right now, I'll be considered a flashy. Or you. Brilliant scams, there's people who charge way too much for really bad quality models. There's also black companies, which are investigative companies that do awful things like trying to debut a 9-year-old as a working person, which shouldn't be okay, to be honest. Tracking technology, you don't need that anymore, you just need a webcam and you can be a VTuber. And of course some money or your own talent to be a person that makes a model. Shoes, basically a real-time After Effects thing you can put on top of your VTuber model, so it looks really pretty, but you can still stream it to people. That's the integration part we already talked about, basically. And here, in conclusion, this is the Western side of things. Tony the Tiger became a VTuber. Only for one day, though. Because people thought he was very sexy, and they had to shut him down.
Yeah.
And SpongeBob was at the football games once as a VTuber. That was weird. But yeah, that was it. And I think that VTubing is just starting out, especially here in Germany. And thank you for listening.